Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to our channel, where we empower mature women to live their best lives with confidence and wisdom. If you're a woman over 40 navigating the dating world, this video could save you months of heartache and wasted energy. Today, we're discussing the 7 critical red flags that mean he's just playing you. As mature women, we bring incredible value to relationships, life experience, emotional intelligence, and clear priorities. But some men specifically target us, thinking we'll be grateful for any attention or easier to manipulate. They're wrong. But these players can be sophisticated. That's why recognizing these red flags early is crucial for protecting your heart and investing your time only in men who are genuinely serious about you. Before we start, grab a notebook. As we go through each red flag, honestly assess whether you've experienced these behaviors. Sometimes seeing patterns written down helps us understand what's really happening. If this resonates with you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us reach more women who need these messages. Remember, your standards should be higher now, not lower. You have less time to waste on people who aren't serious. You've earned the right to demand respect, consistency, and genuine interest. Having standards isn't being picky, it's being wise. The right men will appreciate your standards and step up to meet them. Those who complain about your expectations are showing you exactly who they are. Today, we're covering 7 specific red flags, clear, definitive behaviors that should have you walking away. I'll explain what they look like, why they're particularly harmful to mature women, and how to protect yourself. Let's dive into red flag number 1. Number 1. The hot and cold communication pattern. The first red flag we need to discuss is perhaps one of the most confusing and emotionally damaging, the hot and cold communication pattern. This is when a man alternates between being incredibly attentive and communicative, and then suddenly becoming distant, unresponsive, or barely available. Now, I want you to think about this scenario. He texts you good morning every day for a week, sends you sweet messages throughout the day, maybe even calls you in the evening, just to hear your voice. You start to feel like you're developing a real connection. You look forward to his messages, and you begin to plan your day around this communication. Then suddenly, radio silence. The good morning texts stop. He takes hours or even days to respond to your messages. When he does respond, it's short, lacking the warmth and enthusiasm he showed before. You're left wondering what you did wrong, analyzing your last conversation, trying to figure out how things changed so quickly. Just when you're about to write him off completely, he resurfaces with renewed intensity. Maybe he sends you a long, heartfelt message explaining that he's been busy with work or dealing with family issues or going through something personal. He's sorry for being distant, and he really cares about you. The attention returns, and you feel that relief and excitement again. This pattern is incredibly manipulative, and it's specifically effective on mature women for several reasons. First, we tend to be more understanding and empathetic. When he gives an excuse for his distance, we want to believe him. We've all been through difficult times, and we understand that life can get overwhelming. Second, many of us have been in long-term relationships where communication naturally ebbs and flows based on life circumstances. We're used to giving people the benefit of the doubt and working through rough patches. But there's a crucial difference between natural relationship rhythms and intentional manipulation. The hot and cold pattern is actually a psychological manipulation technique called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same principle that makes gambling addictive. When the reward, his attention and affection, comes unpredictably, it creates a powerful psychological hook. Your brain starts craving the high of his attention, and you become more invested in getting it back when it's withdrawn. This is particularly damaging for mature women because we often interpret this behavior through the lens of our life experience. We might think he's just dealing with stress, or he needs space to process his feelings, or maybe he's not good at communicating his emotions. We make excuses for him that we would never make for ourselves. But here's what's really happening. He's testing your boundaries and training you to accept inconsistent treatment. Every time you welcome him back after a period of distance without addressing the pattern, you're showing him that this behavior is acceptable to you. A man who is genuinely interested in you will maintain consistent communication. Yes, there will be busy days and stressful periods, but he'll let you know what's going on. He won't disappear without explanation and then act like nothing happened when he returns. Real men who are serious about mature women understand that we've been around long enough to recognize games. They know that we value reliability and consistency. They won't risk losing us by playing these hot and cold games because they understand that we have options and we won't tolerate being treated poorly. So how do you handle this red flag if you're experiencing it right now? First, stop making excuses for his behavior. I don't care how stressed he is at work or what family drama he's dealing with. It takes 30 seconds to send a text saying, "Having a crazy week, but thinking of you." Second, don't chase him during the cold periods. I know it's tempting to reach out, to try to rekindle the warmth you felt during the hot periods, but resist this urge. Let his absence speak for itself. Third, when he does return with his explanations and renewed attention, address the pattern directly. You might say something like, "I noticed that your communication has been inconsistent. I understand that life gets busy, but I need reliability in my relationships. How do you plan to handle this differently going forward?" Pay attention to his response. Does he take responsibility and offer concrete solutions? Or does he get defensive, minimize your concerns, or turn it back on you? His reaction will tell you everything you need to know about his character and his intentions. Remember, mature women deserve consistent, reliable communication. We deserve partners who show up for us, even when life gets difficult. The hot and cold pattern is not romantic mystery. It's emotional manipulation designed to keep you off balance and more willing to accept poor treatment. If you recognize this pattern in your current relationship, please don't ignore it, hoping it will get better. In my experience, and from the hundreds of stories I've heard from women in our community, this pattern only gets worse over time, not better. Now let's move on to red flag number 2, which often goes hand in hand with inconsistent communication. Number 2, he keeps your relationship status. Vague red flag number 2 is something that might feel familiar to many of you. He keeps your relationship status deliberately vague and undefined. This is when you've been seeing each other for weeks or even months, but if someone asked either of you what your relationship is, you'd struggle to give a clear answer. Now, I want to be clear about something from the start. I'm not talking about the natural progression of getting to know someone in the early stages of dating. It's completely normal and healthy for relationships to evolve gradually. What I'm talking about is when a man actively avoids defining the relationship or giving you any sense of where you stand with him, even after you've been seeing each other regularly. This might show up in several ways. Maybe you've been on multiple dates, you've been intimate, you talk regularly, but he's never once mentioned being exclusive or asked about your feelings for him. When you bring up the future, even something as simple as making plans for next month, he changes the subject or gives vague responses. Or perhaps he introduces you to people as his friend, even though you're clearly more than friends. He might avoid posting about you on social media, or if he does, he's careful not to indicate that you're romantically involved. When people ask him about his relationship status, he says he's keeping his options open or seeing where things go. Here's why this behavior is particularly problematic for mature women. We often interpret this as him being cautious or taking things slow because he wants to get it right. We might think he's been hurt before, so he's being careful, or he's mature enough not to rush into anything. But ladies, there's a significant difference between taking things slow and keeping you in relationship limbo. A man who's taking things slow will still communicate his interest in you, discuss where the relationship is heading, and make it clear that he's not seeing other people. A man who keeps things vague is usually doing so because he wants to maintain his options. This vagueness serves several purposes for him. First, it allows him to see other people without technically cheating because you're not officially exclusive. Second, it prevents him from having to make any real commitment or investment in the relationship. Third, it keeps you hoping and waiting for more, which often makes you try harder to win his commitment. This is especially damaging to mature women because we're at a stage in our lives where we don't have time to waste on uncertain situations. We've likely been through the experience of building serious, committed relationships before. We know what real partnership looks like, and we deserve clarity about where we stand with someone. Moreover, many of us have limited time for dating due to career responsibilities, family obligations, or simply the fact that we're more selective about how we spend our energy. When someone keeps us in limbo, they're essentially stealing our time. Time we could be spending either enjoying a secure relationship with them or finding someone who is ready for commitment. I want to share something that one of our community members told me recently. She said, "I spent 6 months seeing a man who said he wasn't ready to put labels on things. During that time, I turned down dates with other men because I thought we were building something together. I finally realized he was keeping me as an option while he continued to date other people. I felt so foolish for wasting that time." This story breaks my heart because it's so common. Too many mature women are accepting undefined relationships because we're afraid that asking for clarity will push the man away. But here's what I want you to understand. A man who is genuinely interested in you will want clarity too. He'll want to define the relationship because he'll want to secure his place in your life. Think about it this way. If you're amazing enough for him to want to spend time with you regularly, to be intimate with you, to share his thoughts and feelings with you, then why wouldn't he want to claim you as his partner? The only reason to keep things vague is if he's not sure about you, or if he's keeping his options open for someone he considers better. I know that might sting to hear, but it's important that we face this reality. You deserve someone who is excited to be with you, who wants the world to know that you're together, who sees a future with you and isn't afraid to say so. So how do you handle this situation? First, you need to have what I call the clarity conversation. After you've been seeing each other for a reasonable amount of time, and what's reasonable varies, but I'd say after 6 to 8 weeks of regular contact, you need to ask directly about the relationship status. You might say something like, "I've really enjoyed getting to know you these past few months, and I feel like we have a good connection. I'd like to know how you see our relationship and where you think it might be heading." Pay attention to his response. Does he give you a direct answer, or does he deflect and give more vague non-answers? Does he seem happy to finally discuss this, or does he act like you're being pushy or demanding? If he continues to avoid giving you clarity, you have your answer. He's not ready for the kind of relationship you want, and you need to decide whether you're willing to continue investing in something undefined. I want to tell you about another community member who handled this beautifully. After 2 months of seeing someone who kept avoiding the relationship conversation, she said, "I need to know where we stand because I'm not interested in casual or undefined relationships. I'm at a point in my life where I want partnership and commitment. If that's not what you're looking for, I understand, but I need to know so I can make decisions about my own life." He told her he wasn't ready for anything serious right now. She thanked him for his honesty and ended things. 3 weeks later, he was in an official relationship with someone else that he met on a dating app. This story illustrates something crucial. It's usually not that they're not ready for commitment. It's that they're not ready for commitment with you. And that's okay. It's better to know this truth than to waste months or years hoping they'll change their mind. Remember, mature women deserve relationships with men who are certain about them. We deserve partners who are excited to claim us, who want to build something real together, who don't keep us guessing about our place in their lives. If someone is keeping your relationship status vague, they're showing you that you're not a priority for them. Believe them and find someone who will make you their clear choice. Now let's talk about red flag number 3, which often accompanies this vagueness about relationship status. Number 3, he's only available at his convenience. Red flag number 3 is one that mature women often overlook because we tend to be understanding about busy schedules and life responsibilities. This red flag is when he's only available to see you or communicate with you at his convenience, with little regard for your schedule or needs. This might look like him only calling you late at night when he's bored or lonely, or perhaps he only wants to see you on weeknights because his weekends are reserved for other activities or people. Maybe he expects you to be available whenever he reaches out, but he's rarely available when you need him or want to spend time together. I want to paint a picture for you of what this looks like in practice. Sarah, a 52-year-old divorced teacher, shared her story with me. She was seeing a man who would text her every Tuesday around 10 p.m. asking if she wanted to hang out the next day. He never planned dates in advance, never asked about her schedule, and never seemed to consider that she might have other plans. When Sarah tried to make plans with him on weekends, he always had excuses. He was visiting family, he had work commitments, he was too tired. But somehow, he always expected her to be free on Wednesday afternoons when he had a few hours to kill. The most telling part of Sarah's story was when she had a family emergency and reached out to him for support. He didn't respond for 2 days because he was busy with work. But that same week, he texted her at 11 p.m. asking if she wanted to come over and watch a movie. This behavior is particularly insidious when it comes to mature women because we often have complex schedules. Many of us are balancing careers, caring for aging parents, maintaining relationships with adult children, and managing households. We understand that coordinating schedules can be challenging, so we're often willing to be flexible. But there's a crucial difference between mutual flexibility and one-sided convenience. In a healthy relationship, both people make efforts to accommodate each other's schedules. Both people sometimes adjust their plans to spend time together. Both people consider the other person's needs and availability. When a man only wants to see you at his convenience, he's essentially treating you like you're a service provider rather than a partner. You're there when he needs you, but your needs and schedule don't factor into his planning. This behavior reveals several concerning things about his character and his view of the relationship. First, it shows that he doesn't see you as a priority in his life. You're not important enough for him to plan around or make adjustments for. Second, it indicates that he views the relationship as being entirely for his benefit. His needs, his schedule, his convenience are what matter. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it suggests that he doesn't respect you as an equal partner. He sees you as someone who should be grateful for whatever attention he's willing to give. Whenever he's willing to give it. I want to share another story that illustrates this perfectly. Maria, a 48-year-old widow, was seeing a man who only wanted to get together on Sunday afternoons. When she asked why they never did anything on Friday or Saturday nights, he said he liked to keep his weekends low-key. It took Maria several months to realize that he was likely seeing other people on the prime dating nights of Friday and Saturday, and she was relegated to Sunday afternoon because that's when he had nothing else to do. She was essentially his backup plan. This kind of treatment is not just disrespectful, it's emotionally damaging. When we consistently accept being someone's convenience option, we start to internalize the message that we're not worthy of better treatment. We begin to believe that we should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention we receive. But mature women deserve so much more than this. We deserve partners who make time for us, who plan ahead to see us, who consider our schedules, and needs when making plans. We deserve to be someone's priority, not their backup option. A man who truly values you will make an effort to see you regularly and at times that work for both of you. He'll plan dates in advance. He'll ask about your schedule and try to accommodate it. When you need support or want to spend time together, he'll make himself available if at all possible. So how do you recognize if you're dealing with this red flag? Look at the pattern of your interactions. Who initiates most of your get-togethers? Does he plan ahead, or is it always last minute? Does he ever adjust his schedule to accommodate yours, or are you always the one being flexible? If you realize you're in this situation, here's what you need to do. Stop being available at his convenience. The next time he reaches out with a last-minute invitation, politely decline and suggest a time that works better for you. See how he responds. You might say, "I can't make it tonight, but I'm free Saturday afternoon if you'd like to plan something." If he's genuinely interested in you, he'll work with your schedule. If he's just looking for convenience, he'll probably move on to someone else who's more readily available. Also, start initiating plans yourself. Suggest specific times and activities. See if he makes an effort to accommodate your suggestions, or if he always tries to change the plans to suit his schedule better. Remember, your time is valuable. Your schedule matters. You deserve a partner who treats you like a priority, not an afterthought. Don't settle for someone who only wants to see you when it's convenient for them. A relationship should enhance your life, not revolve around someone else's convenience. If you find yourself constantly rearranging your schedule for someone who never does the same for you, that's not love. That's being taken advantage of. Now, let's move on to red flag number 4, which is perhaps one of the most emotionally manipulative behaviors you might encounter. Number 4. He love bombs, then disappears. Red flag number 4 is one of the most psychologically damaging behaviors that mature women can encounter in the dating world: love bombing followed by disappearing acts. This pattern is particularly devastating because it creates an addictive cycle that can leave you feeling confused, desperate, and questioning your own worth. Let me explain what love bombing looks like first. Love bombing is when someone overwhelms you with excessive attention, affection, and promises very early in the relationship. We're talking about a man who, within the first few weeks of meeting you, is telling you that you're the most amazing woman he's ever met, that he's never felt this way before, that he can see a future with you. He might shower you with gifts, send you flowers at work, text you constantly throughout the day, call you multiple times just to hear your voice. He talks about introducing you to his family, taking trips together, even hints at marriage or moving in together. He makes you feel like you're the center of his universe. For mature women, this can feel incredibly validating. Maybe you've been through a divorce and haven't felt desired in years. Maybe you've been widowed and forgot what it felt like to have someone be excited about you. Maybe you've been single for a while and started to wonder if you'd ever find love again. When a man comes along and makes you feel like the most special woman in the world, it's intoxicating. You think, finally, I've found someone who appreciates me. Or, this is what I've been waiting for. Or, he sees my worth in a way that others haven't. But here's where the devastating part comes in. After weeks or even months of this intense attention, he suddenly disappears. Not gradually pulling back, completely vanishing. No explanation, no goodbye, no gradual decrease in contact. One day he's telling you he's falling in love with you, and the next day he's gone. When this happens, you're left reeling. You replay every conversation, analyze every interaction, trying to figure out what you did wrong. You might think, but he said he loved me, or but we had such a strong connection, or but he introduced me to his sister. You can't make sense of the sudden abandonment because the love bombing felt so genuine. This pattern is particularly effective on mature women for several reasons. First, we often have enough life experience to know when someone is being fake or superficial, so when the love bombing feels genuine and intense, we trust it more. We think, I'm experienced enough to know the difference between real interest and a player. Second, many mature women have been through relationships that developed slowly and steadily. We might not be familiar with the concept of love bombing as a manipulation tactic. We might interpret the intensity as passion rather than manipulation. Third, if we've been through periods of loneliness or feeling invisible in the dating world, the love bombing can feel like a dream come true. We're so grateful to feel desired and appreciated that we don't question whether it's too much too soon. But love bombing, followed by disappearing, is actually a calculated manipulation tactic. The person doing it is creating an artificial high that makes you crave more. They're essentially training your brain to associate them with intense pleasure and excitement, which makes their subsequent absence even more painful. The psychological term for this is trauma bonding. The extreme high of the love bombing followed by the devastating low of abandonment creates a powerful emotional bond that's actually similar to what happens in abusive relationships. Your brain starts craving the return of that high, making you more likely to welcome them back if they resurface. And here's the truly insidious part. Many of these men do resurface. Just when you're starting to heal and move on, they reappear with explanations and renewed love bombing. They had a family emergency, or work got crazy, or they got scared because their feelings were so strong, or they needed to work on themselves. They pour on the charm again, and because you experienced such intense connection with them before, you want to believe them. You think, maybe he really did just get overwhelmed, or maybe this time will be different, and the cycle begins again. I want to share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Linda, a 55-year-old successful businesswoman, met a man online who seemed perfect. Within 2 weeks, he was sending her flowers daily, calling her his soulmate, talking about their future together. He said he'd never met anyone like her and wanted to delete his dating profile because he only wanted to be with her. After 6 weeks of this intense courtship, he vanished completely. No response to texts. Calls went straight to voicemail. He even blocked her on social media. Linda was devastated. She couldn't understand how someone who claimed to be so in love could just disappear. 3 months later, he reached out with a long message about how he'd been dealing with his ex-wife's illness and his mother's death, both of which turned out to be lies. He said he thought about Linda every day and realized he'd made a terrible mistake. He wanted another chance. Linda, who had spent months trying to heal from the abandonment, welcomed him back. The love bombing resumed immediately, even more intensely than before. This time it lasted 4 months before he disappeared again. This pattern repeated 3 more times over 2 years before Linda finally realized what was happening and blocked him completely. But by then, she had developed such intense trauma bonding that it took her another year of therapy to fully recover. The reason love bombing followed by disappearing is so effective is because it hijacks your brain's reward system. The intermittent reinforcement, intense reward followed by complete withdrawal, creates a psychological addiction that's incredibly difficult to break. This behavior is particularly cruel when directed at mature women because we often have less time to recover from these emotional devastations. When you're 25 and someone treats you this way, you might bounce back relatively quickly. But when you're 50 or 60, each emotional trauma takes longer to heal from, and you may have fewer years left to find genuine love. So how do you protect yourself from this red flag? First, be extremely wary of anyone who comes on very strong very quickly. If someone is talking about love, future plans, or deep commitment within the first few weeks of knowing you, that's a warning sign, not a romantic gesture. Second, healthy relationships develop gradually. Real love builds over time as you truly get to know someone. If someone claims to be deeply in love with you before they know your middle name, your favorite book, how you take your coffee, or what you're afraid of, they're not in love with you. They're in love with the idea of you. Third, trust your gut if something feels too intense too fast. Mature women have excellent intuition. Use it. If a little voice in your head is saying, "This seems too good to be true," listen to it. If you're currently experiencing love bombing, please step back and evaluate the situation objectively. Ask yourself, does this person really know me well, enough to feel this intensely about me? Are they trying to create intimacy through grand gestures rather than through genuine connection? Do I feel pressured to reciprocate their intensity? Remember, real love is steady, consistent, and grows over time. It doesn't start with fireworks and disappear into silence. You deserve genuine affection, not emotional manipulation. Now let's discuss red flag number 5, which is often harder to spot because it masquerades as interest. Number 5. He shows little interest in your life beyond surface. Level red flag number 5 is subtler than the others we've discussed, but it's equally important to recognize. This is when a man shows little genuine interest in your life beyond the surface level. He might ask how your day was, but he doesn't really listen to the answer. He might know where you work, but he has no idea what your job actually entails, or why you chose that career path. This red flag is particularly tricky for mature women to identify because these men are often skilled at appearing interested. They ask questions, they nod at the right times, they might even remember some details. But when you really examine their level of engagement, you realize it's all surface-level politeness rather than genuine curiosity about who you are as a person. Let me give you some examples of what this looks like in practice. Maybe you tell him about a project you're passionate about at work, and he responds with a generic, "That's nice," before immediately changing the subject to something about himself. Or perhaps you mention that you're worried about your elderly mother's health, and he gives you a quick, "I'm sure she'll be fine," without asking any follow-up questions or checking in about it later. He might know that you have children or grandchildren, but he never asks about them specifically. He doesn't remember their names, doesn't inquire about important events in their lives, shows no interest in what they mean to you. He might know you enjoy reading, but he never asks what you're currently reading or what genres you prefer. This behavior is particularly damaging to mature women because we've reached a stage in life where we have rich, complex inner lives. We have careers we've built over decades, relationships we've nurtured, experiences that have shaped us, wisdom we've gained, dreams we're still pursuing. We have stories to tell, insights to share, and perspectives that come from years of living. When someone shows no real interest in these depths of our being, they're essentially treating us as one-dimensional. They might appreciate our appearance, enjoy our company for light conversation, or value what we can do for them, but they're not interested in who we truly are. This is especially hurtful because mature women often bring so much to relationships. We have interesting careers, hobbies we're passionate about, causes we care about, families we love, friendships we've cultivated over years. We have opinions about politics, art, literature, current events. We have memories from traveling, stories from raising children, wisdom from overcoming challenges. A man who's genuinely interested in you will be fascinated by all of these aspects of your life. He'll ask follow-up questions. He'll remember things you've told him and ask about them later. He'll want to understand what makes you tick, what you're passionate about, what your dreams are. I want to share a story that illustrates the difference beautifully. Carol, a 58-year-old retired nurse, was dating 2 different men around the same time, before becoming exclusive with either. The first man knew she was a retired nurse, but that's where his knowledge ended. He never asked about her experiences in healthcare, never inquired about why she chose nursing, never showed any curiosity about what 3 decades in medicine had taught her. When she mentioned volunteering at a free clinic, he said, "That's nice," and immediately started talking about his golf game. The second man, however, was fascinated by her career. He asked about her most memorable patients, wanted to know how healthcare had changed over her career, was curious about what drew her to nursing in the first place. When she mentioned the free clinic, he asked detailed questions about the population they served and the types of health issues she was seeing there. The difference in their levels of interest was striking. The first man was dating a woman who happened to be a retired nurse. The second man was dating Carol, a complex, experienced woman with decades of stories, insights, and wisdom to share. Guess which relationship Carol chose to pursue? The man who was genuinely interested in her as a complete person, not just as a pleasant companion for dinner dates. This red flag often manifests in several specific ways. First, conversations always seem to revolve around him. When you share something about yourself, he quickly relates it back to his own experience rather than exploring yours further. If you mention you're reading a fascinating book about World War II, instead of asking what you're learning or what interests you about that period, he immediately launches into a story about his grandfather's war experiences. Second, he doesn't remember important details about your life. You might tell him about a job interview you're nervous about, and when you see him the next week, he doesn't ask how it went. You might mention that your daughter is going through a divorce, and a month later he asks how your son is doing, not remembering that you have a daughter, not a son. Third, he shows no curiosity about your opinions or perspectives. He doesn't ask what you think about current events, about books you've read, about places you've traveled. He might state his own opinions, but shows no interest in hearing yours. This is particularly telling because mature women often have well-formed, thoughtful opinions based on years of experience. Fourth, he doesn't ask about your goals or dreams. He might know what you do for work, but he doesn't know what you want to do next in your career. He might know you travel, but he doesn't know where you dream of going next. He lives entirely in the present moment with you, showing no interest in your past experiences or future aspirations. This behavior is problematic for several reasons. First, it indicates that he sees you as entertainment or companionship rather than as a potential life partner. Partners are interested in each other's inner lives. They want to understand each other deeply. They care about each other's thoughts, feelings, dreams, and fears. Second, it suggests that he doesn't see you as an equal. He might see you as pleasant company, but he doesn't view you as someone whose thoughts and experiences are valuable enough to explore. This is particularly insulting to mature women who have lived full, rich lives and have so much wisdom to offer. Third, it reveals that he's probably not capable of deep emotional intimacy. Real relationships require genuine interest in your partner's inner world. If he can't be bothered to learn about what makes you who you are, he's not capable of the kind of emotional connection that leads to lasting love. So how do you recognize if you're experiencing this red flag? Pay attention to your conversations. Who does most of the talking? When you share something about yourself, does he ask follow-up questions or does he change the subject? Does he remember things you've told him about your life? Also, notice whether he shows curiosity about your thoughts and opinions. Does he ask what you think about things? Does he seem interested in your perspective? Or does he only share his own views without caring about yours? Here's a simple test. Try sharing something you're passionate about, a hobby, a cause you care about, a book you loved, a place you want to visit. See how he responds. Does he ask questions to learn more? Does he seem genuinely interested? Or does he give you a polite response before moving on to something else? If you realize you're dealing with someone who shows little genuine interest in your life, you need to ask yourself, is this the kind of relationship I want? Do I want to be with someone who doesn't care about my thoughts, dreams, and experiences? Remember, you are fascinating. Your life experiences, your wisdom, your perspectives, these things are valuable and interesting. You deserve a partner who recognizes this and wants to explore the depths of who you are. Don't settle for someone who's content to skim the surface of your life. You have so much more to offer than small talk about the weather and your weekend plans. Find someone who appreciates the full, complex, interesting woman you are. Now let's move on to red flag number 6, which involves his relationship with the important people in your life. Number 6, he makes excuses to avoid meeting your friends and family. Red flag number 6 is one that mature women sometimes overlook because we understand that integrating families can be complex at our stage of life. This red flag is when he consistently makes excuses to avoid meeting your friends and family, or when he seems uncomfortable with the idea of becoming part of your social circle. Now, I want to be clear about what I mean here. I'm not talking about someone who's naturally shy or introverted and needs time to warm up to new people. I'm not talking about someone who wants to take things slow before meeting your family. What I'm talking about is someone who actively avoids opportunities to meet the important people in your life, even after you've been seeing each other for a significant amount of time. This might look like him always having an excuse when you invite him to family gatherings. Your daughter's birthday party? He has to work. Your best friend's retirement celebration? He's not feeling well. Your grandson's graduation? He has plans with his own family that he can't change. Or maybe he agrees to meet your friends or family, but always cancels at the last minute. Something always comes up. Work emergency, family crisis, he's getting sick. The pattern becomes clear. He'll agree to these social situations to keep you happy, but he'll find a way to avoid actually following through. Another version of this red flag is when he does meet your friends or family but makes it clear that he's uncomfortable and doesn't want to do it again. He might be polite during the encounter, but complain about it afterward. He might criticize your friends or family, suggesting that they don't like him or that they're too nosy or demanding. For mature women, this behavior is particularly concerning because our relationships with friends and family are often central to our lives. We've spent decades building these relationships. Our friends have been through life's ups and downs with us. Our family members are important to us, whether they're our children, grandchildren, siblings, or extended family. When we're considering a serious relationship at this stage of life, we want someone who will integrate well with the people we love. We want our friends to like our partner, and we want our partner to enjoy spending time with them. We want our family to accept our partner, and we want our partner to care about our family relationships. A man who consistently avoids meeting your friends and family is sending you several concerning messages. First, he's telling you that he doesn't see a future with you that involves these important relationships. If he was serious about building a life with you, he would want to get to know the people who matter to you. Second, he's indicating that he doesn't want to be accountable to anyone in your life. When your friends and family know about your relationship, they can offer feedback and support. They can spot red flags that you might miss. They can hold him accountable for how he treats you. Men who are playing games often prefer to operate in isolation, away from the watchful eyes of people who care about you. Third, he's showing that he doesn't value what's important to you. Your relationships with friends and family are a part of who you are. When he dismisses the importance of these relationships or avoids engaging with them, he's dismissing a part of you. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Janet, a 62-year-old grandmother, was seeing a man for 8 months who had never met any of her friends or family members. Every time she invited him to join her for social events, he had an excuse. When her granddaughter's wedding was coming up, she was excited to finally have an important event where he could meet everyone. He agreed to be her date for the wedding, and Janet spent weeks telling her family about him. The week before the wedding, he cancelled, saying his back was acting up and he wouldn't be comfortable sitting through a long ceremony. Janet was embarrassed to show up alone after telling everyone about her boyfriend. The next week, she saw photos on his social media of him at a baseball game with friends. Clearly his back was fine. When she confronted him about it, he became defensive and accused her of being too demanding about integrating their social lives. This story illustrates something important. A man who's genuinely committed to you will want to be part of your world, not hide from it. He'll understand that your friends and family are important to you, and he'll make an effort to build relationships with them. There are some legitimate reasons why someone might be hesitant about meeting family and friends. Maybe he's been through a difficult divorce and is worried about judgment. Maybe he's naturally introverted and finds large social gatherings overwhelming. Maybe he has social anxiety or feels insecure about fitting in with your social circle. The difference is in how he handles these concerns. A man who has legitimate worries but is committed to the relationship will communicate about them. He might say, "I'm nervous about meeting your family because I want to make a good impression. Can we start by meeting just 1 or 2 people first?" Or, "Large parties make me anxious, but I really want to meet your friends. Could we arrange a smaller gathering?" He'll work with you to find solutions that honor both his comfort level and your need to integrate your lives. He won't just avoid the situation indefinitely, but a man who's just playing you will continue to make excuses without offering alternatives. He'll cancel at the last minute repeatedly. He'll criticize your friends and family as a way to justify his avoidance. He'll make you feel like you're being unreasonable for wanting him to be part of your social world. So how do you handle this red flag if you're experiencing it? First, pay attention to the pattern. Is he consistently avoiding opportunities to meet your friends and family? Does he always have excuses? Has this been going on for months without any progress? Second, have a direct conversation about it. You might say something like, "I've noticed that we haven't managed to connect you with my friends and family, and that's important to me. Can we talk about what's making this difficult and how we can move forward?" Listen to his response carefully. Does he acknowledge your concerns and offer solutions? Or does he get defensive and make you feel like you're asking for too much? Third, be clear about your expectations. You might say, building a relationship means becoming part of each other's lives, and that includes the important people in our lives. I need to know that you're willing to make an effort to get to know my friends and family. If he continues to avoid these relationships after you've made it clear how important they are to you, you have to ask yourself, do I want to be with someone who doesn't want to be part of my whole life? Remember, mature women have rich social networks that we've built over decades. We have family relationships that matter to us. A partner who truly values us will want to become part of this world, not avoid it. Don't let someone convince you that your need for social integration is unreasonable. It's not. It's a normal part of building a life together. Now let's discuss the final red flag, which might be the most important one of all. Number 7, his actions don't match. His words red flag. Number 7 is perhaps the most critical one we'll discuss today because it encompasses so many other problematic behaviors. This is when his actions consistently don't match his words. He says all the right things, but his behavior tells a completely different story. This red flag is particularly dangerous for mature women because we often give more weight to words than actions. We've been socialized to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to believe what people tell us. We might think, he said he cares about me, so he must care, even though he doesn't act like it. But here's a fundamental truth that I want you to write down and remember. Actions are the truth. Words are just noise. Anyone can say anything. It costs nothing to tell you you're special, that they care about you, that they want a future with you. But actions require investment of time, energy, money, emotion. Actions reveal true intentions. Let me give you some examples of what this mismatch looks like in practice. He tells you that you're a priority in his life, but he's constantly cancelling plans with you for other things. He says he wants to spend more time together, but he never actually makes time in his schedule for you. He tells you he's serious about the relationship, but he won't introduce you to his friends or family. He says he loves talking to you, but he never calls unless he wants something. He tells you you're beautiful and special, but he never plans thoughtful dates or surprises. He says he's looking forward to building a future together, but he won't commit to anything more than a week in advance. He tells you he's not seeing anyone else, but he's still active on dating apps. He says he values your opinion, but he never asks for your input on important decisions in his life. He tells you he misses you when you're apart, but he doesn't make effort to see you regularly. This pattern is especially damaging to mature women because we often rationalize these inconsistencies. We might think, well, he's busy with work, or he's not good at expressing his feelings through actions, or he shows he cares in other ways. But ladies, I need you to understand something. When someone's actions don't match their words, they're showing you who they really are. Their words are what they think you want to hear. Their actions are what they actually feel and believe. A man who truly cares about you will show it through his actions. He won't just tell you you're important, he'll treat you like you're important. He won't just say he wants to spend time with you, he'll actually make time for you. He won't just talk about the future, he'll take concrete steps to build that future with you. I want to share a story that perfectly illustrates this principle. Patricia, a 56-year-old successful real estate agent, was seeing a man who constantly told her how much she meant to him. He would send her romantic texts, tell her she was the best thing that had ever happened to him, talk about how lucky he was to have found her. But his actions told a different story. He would cancel their dates if something better came up. He never remembered important things she told him. He borrowed money from her multiple times but was always too busy to pay her back. When she got food poisoning and asked if he could bring her some soup, he said he would, but never showed up. Patricia kept focusing on his words, thinking, but he tells me he loves me, but he says I'm special to him. It took her friend pointing out the pattern for her to realize that his actions were showing her the truth. She wasn't a priority in his life, despite what he said. This mismatch between words and actions is particularly common with emotional manipulators because they've learned that words are powerful tools for keeping people invested in relationships. They know that saying, "I love you," or "you're amazing," costs them nothing, but can buy them weeks or months of patience from their partner. They also understand that mature women often have deep capacity for forgiveness and understanding. They know that if they say the right things, we'll often overlook disappointing actions. They count on our tendency to give people the benefit of the doubt. But here's what I want you to understand. A person's character is revealed through their actions, not their words. Integrity means that your words and actions align. When someone consistently says one thing but does another, they're showing you that they lack integrity. Moreover, when someone's actions don't match their words in a relationship, they're being dishonest with you. They're telling you what they think will keep you around, not what they actually feel or intend. This is a form of manipulation, even if they don't consciously realize they're doing it. So how do you evaluate whether someone's actions match their words? Start by making a list of the things he's told you about how he feels about you and what he wants from the relationship. Then, make a list of his actual behaviors. Do they align? For example, if he says you're a priority, does he prioritize time with you? If he says he wants a serious relationship, is he taking steps to build one? If he says he cares about your happiness, does he do things that actually make you happy? Pay attention to the small actions as much as the big ones. Does he remember things that are important to you? Does he follow through on promises he makes? Does he show consideration for your time and feelings? Does he make efforts to make you feel special and valued? Also, notice how he responds when you point out these inconsistencies. If you say, "I'm important to you, but you've cancelled our last 3 dates," does he take responsibility and change his behavior? Or does he get defensive and make excuses? A man of integrity will be concerned if his actions aren't matching his words, and he'll make efforts to correct the problem. A man who's just playing games will minimize your concerns or blame external circumstances. I want to share one more story that shows the difference beautifully. Linda was dating 2 different men before committing to either. Both told her they cared about her and wanted to build something serious. The first man said all the right things, but was constantly disappointing her with his actions. He would promise to call and then not call. He would make plans and then change them. He would say he missed her but wouldn't make effort to see her. The second man was less eloquent with words, but his actions spoke volumes. He always did what he said he would do. When he promised to call, he called. When he made plans, he kept them. When she mentioned she was stressed about a work presentation, he showed up with her favorite coffee and an encouraging note. Linda realized that the second man's consistent actions meant more than the first man's pretty words. She chose the man, whose actions matched his words, and they're now happily married. Remember, anyone can say they care about you. Anyone can tell you you're special. Anyone can talk about the future. But actions require investment. Actions reveal true feelings. Actions show you who someone really is. Don't let beautiful words distract you from disappointing actions. Trust what people do, not just what they say. Your time and heart are too precious to waste on someone who can't back up their words with consistent, caring actions. How to protect yourself and move forward. Now that we've discussed all 7 red flags, I want to spend some time talking about how you can protect yourself and move forward with confidence and wisdom. Recognizing these red flags is the first step, but knowing how to respond to them and protect yourself is equally important. First, let's talk about trusting your intuition. As mature women, we have finely tuned intuition that comes from years of life experience. We've seen patterns, we've learned from mistakes, and we've developed an internal compass that usually points us in the right direction. But sometimes, especially when we're lonely or really want a relationship to work, we override our intuition. I want you to promise me something. Start listening to that little voice in your head. If something feels off, it probably is. If you find yourself making excuses for someone's behavior, that's a red flag in itself. If you're constantly confused about where you stand with someone, that confusion is telling you something important. Your intuition is not your enemy. It's not sabotaging your chances at love. It's trying to protect you from wasting your time and energy on the wrong people so you can save them for the right person. Second, let's discuss the importance of maintaining your standards. I know that dating can feel discouraging, especially if you've been single for a while, or if you feel like there aren't many good options available. It's tempting to lower your standards or accept less than you deserve because you're afraid you won't find anything better. But I want you to understand something. Lowering your standards doesn't increase your chances of finding love. It just increases your chances of ending up in an unsatisfying relationship with someone who doesn't value you properly. Your standards should actually be higher now, not lower. You have less time to waste on people who aren't right for you. You know what real love looks like because you've lived long enough to understand the difference between genuine connection and surface-level attraction. Write down your non-negotiables. What are the behaviors and qualities that you absolutely require in a partner? What are the things you absolutely won't tolerate? Keep this list somewhere you can reference it when you're tempted to make excuses for someone's poor behavior. Third, let's talk about the importance of taking things slowly.
I know this might seem counterintuitive when you feel like time is precious, but rushing into relationships often leads to missing important red flags. Give yourself time to observe someone's behavior patterns. Don't make major emotional investments
Until you've seen how they handle stress, disappointment, conflict, and ordinary day-to-day life. Notice how they treat other people, waiters, customer service representatives, their family members, their friends. Pay attention to their relationship history. How do they talk about their ex-partners? Do they take any responsibility for relationship failures, or is it always the other person's fault? Are they bitter and angry, or have they learned and grown from their experiences? Fourth, maintain your independence and your other relationships. Don't let a new romantic interest become the center of your universe. Keep investing in your friendships, your hobbies, your career, your family relationships. This serves several purposes. It ensures that you maintain perspective about the relationship. When someone is your whole world, it's harder to see their flaws clearly. It also makes you less vulnerable to manipulation because you have other sources of fulfillment and validation. Additionally, your friends and family can often spot red flags that you might miss because you're emotionally invested. Listen to their concerns. If multiple people who care about you are expressing worry about someone you're dating, take that seriously. Fifth, don't be afraid to have difficult conversations early in the relationship. Many mature women avoid bringing up topics like exclusivity, future plans, or relationship expectations because we don't want to seem pushy or scare someone away. But here's the truth. If having honest conversations about what you want scares someone away, they weren't right for you anyway. The right person will appreciate your honesty and directness. They'll want to have these conversations too because they'll be thinking about the same things. You don't have unlimited time to figure out if someone is serious about you. It's perfectly reasonable to ask direct questions about where things are heading, what they're looking for, and how they see the relationship developing. Sixth, learn to recognize love bombing and other manipulation tactics. If someone seems too good to be true early in the relationship, be cautious. Real love develops gradually as people get to know each other. Be suspicious of anyone who claims to be deeply in love with you before they really know you. Similarly, be wary of anyone who tries to isolate you from your friends and family, who gets angry when you don't respond to texts immediately, who pressures you for sex or emotional intimacy before you're ready, or who tries to make you feel guilty for having boundaries. Seventh, don't ignore red flags hoping they'll go away or that you can change the person. I've heard from so many women who say, "I saw the red flags, but I thought I could help him change," or "I knew there were problems, but I hoped they would get better over time." Red flags are warnings, not challenges. They're telling you important information about someone's character and how they're likely to treat you in the future. Believe what people show you about themselves, and don't waste your energy trying to turn the wrong person into the right person. Eighth, if you realize you're dealing with someone who's displaying these red flags, end the relationship sooner rather than later. I know this is easier said than done, especially if you've developed feelings or if you've been hoping things would improve. But remember, every day you spend with the wrong person is a day you're not available to meet the right person. Every emotional investment you make in someone who doesn't value you is energy you could be putting towards someone who would appreciate you properly. You don't owe anyone a lengthy explanation for why you're ending things. A simple, "I don't think we're compatible for a long-term relationship," is sufficient. You don't need to justify your decision or try to convince them to change. Finally, take time to heal and learn from each relationship experience. If you've been involved with someone who displayed these red flags, spend some time reflecting on why you accepted that treatment and what you can do differently next time. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge. Maybe you ignored your intuition because you were lonely. Maybe you lowered your standards because you were afraid you wouldn't find anyone else. Maybe you made excuses for poor behavior because you wanted to be understanding. Understanding your own patterns helps you make better choices in the future. Consider working with a therapist who specializes in relationships if you find yourself repeatedly attracted to the wrong type of person, or if you have trouble maintaining boundaries. Remember, you deserve love that is consistent, respectful, and genuine. You deserve a partner who values you, who shows up for you, who treats you like the priority you should be in their life. Don't settle for less than this, no matter how long you've been single or how discouraged you might feel about dating. The right person is out there, and they're looking for someone exactly like you, mature, experienced, wise, and ready for real love. But you won't be available for them if you're wasting your time with someone who's just playing games. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with these essential reminders. Remember your worth. You are not desperate or running out of time. You're a valuable, experienced woman with so much to offer. You deserve someone who recognizes and appreciates your qualities. Trust your intuition. That little voice warning you about someone's behavior. Listen to it. Your life experience has fine-tuned your instincts. Use them. Maintain your standards. Being selective doesn't mean you'll end up alone. It means you'll avoid wasting time on the wrong people and make space for the right one. Being alone with self-respect is better than companionship with someone who diminishes you. Take things slowly. Give yourself time to observe behavior patterns. Notice how they handle stress, treat others, and discuss past relationships. Don't rush major emotional investments. Stay independent. Keep investing in your friendships, hobbies, and other relationships. This maintains perspective and makes you less vulnerable to manipulation. Have difficult conversations early. Don't avoid discussing exclusivity, future plans, and expectations. If honest conversations scare someone away, they weren't right for you. Don't ignore red flags. They're warnings, not challenges. Don't try to change someone or hope problems will disappear. Every day with the wrong person is a day you're not available for the right one. Focus on healing and growth. Learn from each experience without blaming yourself. Consider therapy if you notice unhealthy patterns. Use your single time to create a life you love. The right person is looking for someone exactly like you, mature, wise, and ready for real love. But you won't be available if you're settling for games and poor treatment. If this helped you, please like, subscribe, and share with friends who need this message. Comment below with your experiences or topics you'd like covered. Your wisdom helps our entire community. Remember, you deserve love that is consistent, respectful, and genuine. Trust your instincts, maintain your standards, and never forget your worth. Until next time, keep believing that the best is yet to come. You've got this.